All right, good morning. We are going to continue on our journey learning about the essence of Chassidus. So in the English booklet, we're on page 26. Okay. So, recap. We're trying to understand what Chassidus is, what in its essence, what is it? And we learned this principle that from the reward, from the result of something, you can understand what its essence itself is. So we've learned that the reward for the study of and the dissemination of Chassidus is Mashiach. So what's Mashiach? We talked about Mashiach was a lot of things. The redemption of the Jewish people from their exile and the divine presence from its exile as well. The knowledge of Hashem will be spread throughout the world, and so on and so forth, many other things, many miracles as well. However, this is not what Mashiach is. This is what will happen when Mashiach comes. Mashiach is, in a single word, is Yechida. Yechida is the essence. There's 5 levels of soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. And the highest is Yechida. The 4 lower levels are revelations, are expressions of the soul. Yechida is the essence of the soul. Once Yechida is introduced into the universe, into reality, everything is pumped up and it lives with a new life. So now let's translate this back into Chassidus. Okay, so we're on section 6, VI in Roman, for those of you who are Roman, page 26. So, Ka'omer Le'el, as was said earlier, Mischora shel hafotzas haChassidus bias haMashiach neidas haMahusa. That from the reward of studying and spreading Chassidus, which is the coming of Mashiach, we will know what the essence of Chassidus itself is. Kol hachidushim sheChassidus chidshu. All the novelties, all the new things that Chassidus introduced, we'll get back to this in a minute. There's a parenthetical thing here which is going to reference what we learned at the beginning of the Sikha, but we're going to elaborate on it. So all the things that Chassidus introduced, Einam Chidushim, now we're after the parentheses, which is on page 28, it seems. So Einam Chidushim shekol echad ve'echad mischadesh hu b'fnei atzmai. So all these new things are not novelties that each one was introduced and was novelized on its own, for itself, individually. Ki'im shechasidus hi chayus chodesh. Rather, Chassidus is a new life force. Chayus atzmi de bechinas yechida. It is an essential life force on the level of yechida. V'kasher chayus chodesh zeh shel haChassidus nimshach ba'ilam. And when this life force, this new life force of Chassidus is brought into the world, we're going to skip this brackets as well because we're going to get back to them. Then all matters of the universe, all matters of the world began to live with a new vitality, an essential energy. Automatically was novelized in the world many, many things. So in other words, let's say you have a person that's, God forbid, in a coma. Or is that in a coma? And they're simply not there. They're alive, they're breathing, but it's very difficult to call them living. So they have all the body parts, all the right body parts. They got eyes. The eyes are technically fully functional. They can operate. The heart is there, the brain, the hands have those 5 fingers on them. And all the body parts are there, but they're just not working. Now I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna tell you that it's medically and biologically and factually not true, but just bear with me. Imagine this person wakes up from the coma, and their energy starts to flow through their body, their soul, their life force. So what happens? First, the hands turn on, and the person starts opening their hands and closing their hands. And then this life force comes to the eyes, and the eyes start to function. And then a person's mouth starts to function, and they start opening their mouth and closing their mouth and starting able to speak. The brain turns on. Well, probably the brain first, then the hand, then the mouth. Then the legs, and those start moving, and this energy that this person wakes up with causes them to wake up. Every single part of the body, individually, one after another, wakes up. This is not true. The reality is, when a person wakes up, their whole being wakes up. Everything about them wakes up at the same time. It's not a step-by-step process. Maybe they have to relearn certain things because they've been in coma for a while, but the energy flows throughout the entire body instantaneously to every part of the body. So too, when Chassidus was introduced into the world, Chassidus is a new energy, a new vitality. Everything in the world automatically started living within this new life force. So I want to go back to the brackets, because the brackets were important. There were two sets of brackets. We'll go to the first one first. Okay? So, from the reward of Chassidus, which is the coming of Mashiach, we know its essence. And we said, all the new things, the novelizations that Chassidus introduced. Now let's go into the brackets. What were these things that Chassidus introduced? This is going to be a repeat of the beginning of the Sikha. B'Torah, the things that Chassidus introduced and novelized in Torah, including bringing the part of the secret part of Torah, Kabbalah of Torah, to a revealed state. Within Torah, there's limitations, there's boundaries, there's rules, there's zones, even you can say. There's different parts, and they have to stay in their department. Okay. There's Pshat, there's the simple level of Torah, which we spoke about earlier, previously, all the way down, all the way up, really, till the level of Soid, Kabbalah, the secrets of Torah. And they have their boundaries, meaning, if you open up the Chumash, and you learn the first pasuk, the first verse, Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz, in the beginning Hashem created the heavens and the earth. And you open up to the first Rashi's commentary. He says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said that seemingly the Torah shouldn't have started here. It should have started the first mitzvah. It's a guidebook. It's not a history book. The first mitzvah is about sanctifying the new month. Why does it start with the history of the creation of the world? Reason is, Rashi says, because one day might come along that non-Jews, nations of the world, come and complain to the Jewish people, hey, you stole this land. You stole the land of Israel. Well, they wouldn't call it the land of Israel. They say, you stole this land. What are you doing here? Get out. You're thieves. So the response that the Jewish people can respond is that the entire universe was created by God. He created it. He created this land, and he gave it to who he saw fit in his eyes. He took it from them, and he gave it to us. That's why we have this land. Okay, you're not going to find anything in this verse or in this commentary of Rashi, anything Kabbalistic. Nothing. Not one word about the world of Atzilus, nothing about Keser, nothing about Chochmah Ilah, none of this. It's not there. And if you do see it there, it's a misprint. It's a typo. It's not supposed to be there. Because Kabbalah, you're not going to find in Pshat, in the simple level. So too, in Midrash, or let's say a little simpler, in Talmud, in Gemara. In Gemara, it's learning the laws of Torah. You're not gonna, you find stories there, but it's within the context of the law. Another example, Rambam, his book of Mishnah Torah, which is a book of Jewish law, of halacha. There you for sure won't find stories. And if you do find something that sounds like a story, it's in connection with the law, and it's needed to know. It's necessary information in order to understand better the law. But every distinct level of Torah has its boundaries, has its area, and they don't cross. Okay. So then you have Kabbalah. Kabbalah is supposed to be hidden. It's supposed to be a mystery. It's supposed to be a secret. Only certain special high individuals, lofty individuals, are privy to this knowledge. However, who got the Torah? We did. Now, I don't remember when Hashem gave us the Torah, there was a contract we signed that said that only certain individuals can learn certain parts of the Torah. I believe it says the opposite. I think it says there's a verse that says Torah tziva lanu Moshe meirasha kehilas Yaakov, that the Torah that Moshe gave us is a inheritance for the congregation of Jacob. It's for everybody. It's for every single Jew. Every single Jew. How could there be a part of Torah that there's a Jew that's not he's not allowed to learn this part of Torah? How does it make any sense? So on the level of the when it comes to the different levels within Torah study, yes, this is supposed to be open and revealed. Gemara, Midrash, Chumash, that is supposed to be open and revealed. Kabbalah is supposed to be secret, only for certain individuals. But regarding the essence of Torah, the Yechida of Torah, Chassidus, every part of Torah is for every Jew. So why can't Kabbalah be open and revealed? Why not? Going further, what's the other? Where did Chassidus make another revolution? Ba'avodas ha'adam, service of man. A Jew serves Hashem. He explains in parentheses, ha'anhaga delifnim mishudas hadin, v'shinoi teva mideisav. The conduct of going beyond the letter of the law, doing more than what's required by strict Jewish law, and also the changing of one's nature of their character traits. I'll just explain one of these points. What does it mean to do? Why is it that Chassidus made this revolution in focusing on going beyond what's required? Because without Chassidus, put Chassidus aside for a moment, what am I? I'm a person. I have a self-identity. I have a sense of self. If I have a sense of self, automatically I won't do something unless I see a reason for it. There's some sort of gain. There's a goal. If I see there's a goal, if I see there's a gain for myself, then I'll do it. Okay. What about if I'm required to do something? Torah says you got to do this. Hashem says do this. Okay, I got to do it. I'm a something that is serving Hashem. Comes along Chassidus and explains and reveals my yechida, my essence of my soul, where on this level, I don't have a sense of self. My whole sense of self is my connection with Hashem. Automatically, I want to do whatever makes me feel more connected to Hashem, even if that means losing myself. Right? So it's like it says in Tanya. Tanya compares the soul to a flame. Okay? What is a flame? A flame, you light a candle. Flame is held on by the wick. And the flame naturally goes up. Okay? This is a Kabbalistic concept. Why does the flame go up? Because we're trying to return to its source, whatever that means. But it's trying to go up to its source. What happens when a flame leaves the wick, which is what it wants to do naturally? The flame leaves the wick, there's no more flame. It's gone. So why would the flame want to leave its wick when it's going to lose its identity completely? It's going to lose itself. It's going to become from a something to a nothing. Says the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, this is just the nature of fire. It wants to do this even if it makes no sense to you. And this is the idea of a neshama, of a soul. From the level of Yechida, it doesn't care to lose its existence. On the contrary, it wants to lose its existence. What do you mean? You're going to connect to Hashem like on this level, you're going to lose yourself. Okay, and therefore what? This is what I want. So it wants every connection with Hashem, even if that means losing itself. And this is why Chassidus introduces this idea and emphasizes and highlights and strengthens this idea of going beyond the letter of the law, doing more than what's required. Going further, and the last point, another thing that the Chassidus introduced, it revolutionized the world at large. And we said, his alphas. It woke the world up from a state of faint. That the idea of fainting, being awake or asleep, being in a state of faint or being conscious, is all in the conscious levels of the soul. The lower levels of the soul, that they can be, so to speak, turned on and turned off. I'm awake, I'm asleep. Person he's conscious, he's unconscious. From the perspective of Yechida, the Yechida never sleeps. Yechida is never unconscious. It's always awake. It's always present. It's always alive. It's always on fire. So from the perspective of Yechidah, why can't the person who's unconscious wake up? Why can't the world who's in a state of faint be awake and alive? No problem. It's beyond the definitions of being asleep or awake, being unconscious or unconscious. So this is what Chassidus does. Chassidus comes into the world and just revolutionizes everything and makes everything alive with a new energy. Now, continuing further, going back to the second parentheses that we skipped, the brackets. Yeah, so the Rebbe said that when this new energy of Chassidus is brought into the world, everything begins to live with a new life force. So when this new energy is brought into the world, brackets. So how is Chassidus brought into the world? It was an evolution. Okay, first it was introduced into the world through the holy Baal Shem Tov, Harava Magid v'chulu. His students, including mainly the Mezritcher Magid of Mezritch, and so on and so forth. And afterwards, Toidas Chassidus Chabad, the teachings of Chassidus Chabad, al yedei haneshama chadasha, through the quote unquote new soul, Kved Kedushas Admor Azokin Balasim Chav Geula, the soul of the Alter Rebbe. What the Rebbe is saying here is something a little bit radical. Kind of like cloaking in very simple words. As much as Chassidus is the level of Yechidah, the Chassidus that the Baal Shem Tov and the Mezritcher Magid and their students taught, the essence wasn't so strongly emphasized. It was, compared to what was before then, it was very strongly emphasized. But in relation to what the essence of Chassidus is, it wasn't fully tapped into. It was only with the advent of the Alter Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe introduced Chassidus Chabad. That's when the essence of the inner dimension of Torah was revealed. What does this mean? The Chassidus of the Baal Shem Tov and his students is known as Chassidus HaKlalis. It's a general Chassidus. It's a Chassidus that inspires the heart. It wakes a person up. It fires them up. But it doesn't necessarily become part of who they are. The Alter Rebbe saw a need to introduce Chassidus Chabad. Chabad stands for Chochmah, Bina, and Das, the three levels of the mind. That in order to truly integrate Chassidus into a Jew, it must come through their mind. They need to understand. They need to properly digest it. Okay? It's like almost like a person who eats a food and they don't chew it. They just swallow it. Sure, it might taste good. It inspires them, so to speak. The doctor in the room goes, God forbid. It inspires them. It makes them excited. Wow, this donut tasted so good, but it doesn't become part of them. Whereas if you eat the food and you chew it, the chewing is a very boring process. You chew and you chew and you chew and you chew and you swallow and it goes in your stomach. It's not as exciting, but it actually integrates with you and it becomes part of you. I recommend bread over donuts, but in short, that the Alter Rebbe brought this idea out, that he took Chassidus and he made it accessible to the human mind, not just the human heart. He revealed the essence of Chassidus, that Chassidus can fully integrate with the human experience. Why? Why does that show on the essence of Chassidus? Because if Chassidus is not brought down to the human mind, it can't be fully integrated into the human mind. What does that mean? Chassidus is here and I'm here. We're two different worlds. Chassidus, quote unquote, cannot come into my life properly. That's not the essence of Torah. That's not the essence of Chassidus. Chassidus affects everything. Yechidah affects everything. It comes down to all levels, including the human mind and heart. I've shared this story before, but it's a story that really brings out the difference between Chassidus of the Baal Shem Tov in general and the way the Alter Rebbe brought out the essence of Chassidus through Chassidus Chabad. There were one time, and I went off with the story. There was one time two Chassidim. They were in shul together, whatever. They were talking. One was a Chassid of the Alter Rebbe, studied Chassidus Chabad, and one was a Chassid was known as Rav Chaim Chaikel. Chaim Chaikel was a colleague of the Alter Rebbe. He was a student of the Mezritcher Magid as well as the Alter Rebbe was. And Chaim Chaikel was known to be very inspirational, very on fire, very, you hang around him for a second more than not hanging around him, you're inspired to love and fear Hashem. Alter Rebbe, I'm sure if you hung around him, you wouldn't be too inspired. You'd have to learn his teachings from him. You have to sit down with a book and break your head to understand what he's saying, and slowly but surely you'll feel inspired yourself. So these two Chassidim were talking. To say it in other words, the mode of service of Hashem of the Baal Shem Tov and his students, and you see it in Reb Chaim Chaikel in a second, is that the tzaddik, the Rebbe, does everything, and his everything inspires you. Whereas the Alter Rebbe's perspective and opinion and his modus operandi was that the Rebbe teaches and guides. You need to do your own inspiration. Okay? So these two Chassidim were talking, and they started, and whatever, they became friendly with each other, and they started davening. It was time for prayers. This Chabad Chassid of the Alter Rebbe is watching this guy, and the guy he's on fire. His davening is so intense. It's so beautiful. It's so inspirational. He knows himself. He knows himself that he tries to daven, he tries to pray, and sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes he's inspired, sometimes he's not. And this really bothers him. So he decided that the next time he comes to the Alter Rebbe, he's going to ask the Alter Rebbe, he's going to pose this before the Alter Rebbe, what on earth? He doesn't do a thing. He just hangs around his Rebbe for a few minutes or a few weeks, a few months, and he's all on fire. I've been studying the Alter Rebbe's teachings for months or years. I sometimes am inspired, but usually not. What is this? So he did. He came to the Alter Rebbe. Next time he was able to, he traveled to the Alter Rebbe. And he had a Chassidus, he had a private meeting with the Alter Rebbe. And he posed this question: how could it be that this Chassid of Reb Chaim Chaikel, he's on fire? He doesn't study Chassidus Chabad. I study Chassidus Chabad. I'm not on fire. Sometimes I am, once in a blue moon. So the Alter Rebbe's response sums up this whole conversation in just a few words. I have to say in Yiddish first. The Alter Rebbe responded with a bit of surprise. Brennt? Chaikel brennt in him. Speak Yiddish. He said, he's on fire. No, Chaikel is burning in him. He's on fire within him. Meaning, he's not on fire. It's not him. It's not this chassid who's the one inspired and on fire. His Rebbe is on fire. Automatically, he hangs on for the ride. He's inspired by his Rebbe's inspiration. You're learning to inspire yourself. You're learning that the Chassidus should fully integrate with you. We're late, but I have to end with one more story. Is that it's a similar idea? Is that one time there was a person had a private meeting with our Rebbe, and the Rebbe explained to him that a Rebbe's job, his role, is to light up your fire. Okay. That's what this person wasn't a chassid. At the end of the meeting, he asked the Rebbe, did you light my fire? Good question, huh? And the Rebbe responded, and again, this helps us understand this even more. The Rebbe said, no, I gave you the match. You have to light your own fire. It's something to think about. Okay, have a great night, great day, and for you, it's a great night. And we will see you, God willing, on Thursday morning, actually, yeah, okay. Yeah.